Sonia Kalefi. On the night of December 14, 2004, police arrived at a quiet home in Tavernario, in the hills above Como, in northern Italy, and arrested a 34-year-old nurse. Inside her home, they found notebooks tracking patients' medical charts, books on euthanasia and death, and a woman who had already confessed to injecting air into the veins of elderly hospital patients, not to end their suffering, but because she liked the rush of watching everyone scramble to save them. Sonia Kalefi, born July 21, 1970, in Como, grew up in Tavernario with her father Nicola, who worked at a funeral home, and her mother, Lorenza Vaghi. From age 15, she suffered severe depression and anorexia nervosa, though she remained a quiet, high-performing student. She trained at the Valduz Hospital Nursing School in Como between 1990 and 93. Married a carpenter in 93, but divorced within a year, and attempted to take her own life multiple times, including in August 2002 by driving her car into a wall. She carried the weight of something dark long before she ever touched a syringe. She was transferred on February 11, 2005, to the Castiglione dell'Estiviere psychiatric facility, where on March 10th, she retracted all of her earlier statements. But the evidence did not depend on her confession alone. She worked at Valduz Hospital from 93 to 2000, then at Ospedale Sant'Anna in Como. Between September and November 2003, 8 terminally ill patients died from air embolism during her shifts at Sant'Anna's general medicine ward. Nobody connected the deaths at the time. In 2004, she was hired at the Manzoni Hospital in Lecco, where between September 1st and November 8th, the ward recorded 18 deaths during her shifts alone. Her method was precise. She injected air into the permanent IV cannula of elderly patients, causing fatal gas embolism. When the alarms sounded and the crash teams rushed in, she stood and watched. That was the point. Her stated motive chilled investigators. I practiced those interventions because I liked that everyone rushed to save the patient in time. Psychiatrists identified it as consistent with Munchausen by proxy dynamics, a pattern where the person creates a crisis so they can be at the center of the response. How does a nurse who has tried to end her own life multiple times end up taking the lives of her patients because she enjoyed watching the emergency response? Suspicion finally crystallized on November 10, 2004, after an elderly patient died and relatives noticed Kalefi acting strangely agitated. The autopsy confirmed gas embolism. She was arrested on the night of December the 14th at her home in Tavernario and initially confessed to 6 killings, 4 confirmed and 2 suspected, before retracting her statements in March 2005. The confirmed Lecco victims were Maria Cristina, 99, Biagio La Rosa, Teresa Lietti, Ferdinando Negri, and Elisa Colomba Riva. 2 patients, Giuseppe Sacchi and Francesco Ticli, survived her attempts. Choosing the abbreviated trial on December 14, 2007, she was sentenced to 20 years for 5 confirmed killings and 2 attempted killings. The Milan Court of Appeal confirmed the sentence in March 2008, despite the prosecution's push for life imprisonment, and the Cassazione made it definitive in October 2008. Her defense argued a complex personality disorder rather than conscious intent to harm. With 3 years of sentence reduction under Italy's 2006 amnesty law plus good conduct credits, her 20 years became roughly 14. On October 1, 2018, she was definitively freed from Bolat prison. She reportedly lives in the Milanese area and was spotted near Niguarda Hospital. She told Il Giorno, "I am changed. I am another person. All I want now is a bit of normality." Franca Leocini devoted a landmark Story Maledette episode to her case in May 2008. And in 2024, Unica TV aired a 20th anniversary special 5 confirmed victims, 18 deaths on her shifts in a single ward in just over 2 months, and a nurse who said she did it because she liked the attention. But in the next case, a 16-year-old girl and her boyfriend did something so horrific in a quiet Italian town that it triggered anti-immigrant protests across the country, all based on a lie she told in the first minutes after the crime. Erika DiNardo. On the evening of February 21, 2001, in a house on Via Don Beniamino da Catra in the Lodolino district of Novi Ligure, a small town in Piedmont, a 16-year-old girl ran out the front doors screaming that 2 Albanian foreigners had broken in and attacked her family. Within hours, the story spread across Italy. Torchlight protests erupted in cities against immigrants. Politicians demanded action. And every word the girl had said was a lie. She was the killer. Erika DiNardo, born in Novi Ligure on April 28, 1984, was the daughter of Francesco DiNardo, a Pernegati executive originally from Calabria, and Susanna Susie Cassini, an accountant. Her brother Gianluca was 11, a basketball-playing schoolboy who once wrote in a school essay, "The classmate I like best is my sister Erika." Erika had been emotionally cold toward her mother for years and was in an intense relationship with 17-year-old Mauro Omar Favaro. Around 7:30 p.m., a kitchen argument erupted over Erika's school results. What followed was methodical. Erika struck the first blow with a kitchen knife. Omar, who had been hiding in the bathroom wearing gloves, joined in. Together they stabbed Susie approximately 40 times. During the attack, Susie's body hit the kitchen table with such force that the table shattered. According to Omar's account, Susie begged them, "Spare Gianluca." They did not spare Gianluca. They attacked the 11-year-old boy, tried to give him rat poison, and drown him in the bathtub. And when neither method worked, they stabbed him 57 more times. A boy whose last school essay said his favorite classmate was his own sister was stabbed 57 times by that sister and her boyfriend. The total across both victims was 97 stab wounds. Around 9 p.m., Erika ran outside and told the story about the 2 Albanian foreigners, a lie that triggered anti-immigrant torchlight protests across Italy before investigators had even finished processing the crime scene. How does a 16-year-old girl stab her own mother 40 times, fail to poison her 11-year-old brother, and then stab him 57 more times? The lie collapsed within hours. No break-in, nothing stolen. The guard dogs never barked, and the weapons were the family's own kitchen knives. In a bugged room at the Novi Ligure Carabinieri barracks, Omar called Erika assassina, and she was filmed miming stabbing movements, evidence that would be replayed across Italian television for years. On December 14, 2001, the Turin Juvenile Court, presided by Judge Graziana Calcagno, sentenced Erika to 16 years, the juvenile maximum, and Omar to 14. The court found them fully capable of understanding their actions, rejecting any claim of diminished capacity. The defense of partial mental impairment was specifically dismissed. The Turin Court of Appeal confirmed in May 2002 and the Cassazione in April 2003. Erika was held at juvenile facilities, including Ferrante a Porti and Cesare Beccaria in Milan, after trying to contact Omar clandestinely, and at Verziano in Brescia. In April 2009, she graduated in philosophy with the highest honors from the Università Cattolica di Brescia, dedicating the degree to her family. Omar was released in March 2010. Erika was released in December 2011 after spending her final months at Don Antonio Mazzi's Fondazione Exodus, a rehabilitation community. Today, Erika, 41, lives in a small town near Lake Garda, married a man from the region, and has completely disappeared from the radar. Her father Francesco rebuilt a family in Novi Ligure. In January 2026, Omar Favaro was sent to trial in Ivrea for alleged mistreatment and assault against his ex-wife, 25 years after the Novi Ligure massacre. 97 stab wounds, an 11-year-old boy who survived poison and drowning only to be stabbed to death, and a lie that turned an entire country against immigrants. But in the next case, a mother called emergency services saying her 3-year-old was vomiting blood. The child had been struck at least 17 times in the head with an object that has never been found. Anna Maria Franzoni. On the morning of January 30th, 2002, in the alpine hamlet of Montrose, above the town of Cogne in the Aosta Valley, a mother called emergency services at 8:28 a.m. and said her 3-year-old son was vomiting blood. When paramedics arrived, they found the boy on his parents' bed with catastrophic head injuries. The autopsy later revealed at least 17 blows to the skull with a blunt object. Micro traces of copper were found on the scalp. The weapon has never been recovered. The only person in the house during the window in which the child was attacked was his mother. Anna Maria Franzoni, born August 23, 1971, in San Benedetto, Val di Sambro, had met her husband, Stefano Lorenzi, while working at a bed and breakfast in Lilas in the early 90s. They married in 93 and settled in Montrose. Their children were David, born 95, Samuele, born November 12, 98, and Gioele, born January 26, 2003, almost exactly a year after Samuele's death. Forensic psychiatrist Ugo Fornari described Franzoni as having a hysterical neurosis personality, theatrical and poorly suited to ordinary stress. That morning, around 5:30 a.m., Franzoni complained of feeling unwell. Her husband left for work in Biella. At 8:16, she walked 6-year-old David to the school bus, leaving 3-year-old Samuela alone in the chalet. 12 minutes later, she made the call to emergency services. Blood pattern analysis, conducted by the RIS of Parma under General Luciano Garofano across 3 separate examinations of the chalet, became the first time such evidence carried procedural weight in an Italian trial. The analysis showed Samuele had been attacked by someone kneeling astride him on the bed. His blood had soaked into her clogs and pajamas, with brain fragments on the sleeves, a pattern forensic experts testified was impossible if she had been absent during the attack. No forced entry, no third-party DNA, no trace of anyone outside the bedroom. If you have made it this far and enjoy deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss one of these. Intercepted phone calls and behavioral evidence deepen suspicion. While Samuel was being airlifted, Franzoni was recorded asking her husband, "Help me make another one?" The family also attempted to implicate park warden Ulisse Guichardas in the crime, which later resulted in a separate conviction for false accusation. And in an off-camera moment during one of her many television appearances, Franzoni was reportedly heard asking, "Did I cry too much?" On July 19, 2004. She was sentenced to 30 years. Her lead counsel, Carlo Taormina, produced evidence later found contaminated. The Turin Court of Appeal confirmed guilt in April 2007, but it reduced the sentence to 16 years. On May 21, 2008, the Cassazione confirmed, finding she had killed lucidly. After detention at Bologna's Dazza prison and Bollate, she obtained house arrest in June 2014. With sentence reductions under Italy's 2006 amnesty law and good conduct credits, she became definitively free in September 2018, though the news was not made public until February 2019. She and Stefano now run a bed and breakfast in Monte Acuto Vallese with sons David and Gioele. She reportedly returned to the Konya chalet to set off fireworks on New Year's Eve, 2021. In 2017, Bologna's civil court ordered her to pay her former lawyer, Taormina, €275,000 in legal fees. In July 2025, Stefano Nazzi's Il Caso podcast revived national interest in the case. Italy remains split between those who believe she is guilty and those who do not. 17 blows, brain fragments on her sleeves, and a question whispered off camera. Did I cry too much? But the next case involves one of the most famous fashion dynasties in the world. A hitman hired for 600 million lira, and a woman who wrote a single word in her diary the night her ex-husband was gunned down. Patrizia Reggiani. On the morning of March 27, 1995, a 46-year-old man arrived at his office at Via Palestro 20 in Milan. As he climbed the steps, he was shot 4 times, 3 in the back and once in the left temple. His doorman, Giuseppe Onorato, was also wounded. The victim was Maurizio Gucci, grandson of Guccio Gucci, one of the most recognizable names in fashion history. That evening, his ex-wife Patrizia opened her diary and wrote a single word: Paradisos, paradise. Patrizia Reggiani, born Patrizia Martinelli on December 2, 1948 in Vignola, was adopted at 12 by transport entrepreneur Ferdinando Reggiani after her mother remarried. She met Maurizio at a Milan party in 1970. His father-in-law, Rodolfo, called her a social climber who had nothing in mind but money. She married him on October 28, 1972. They moved to New York's Olympic Tower and socialized with Jackie Kennedy Onassis. Their daughters Alessandra and Allegra were born in 76 and 81. Reggiani's motto became legendary: better to cry in a Rolls-Royce than be happy on a bicycle. In 85, Maurizio left her via a friend's messenger and began dating Paola Franchi. In 92, a frontal lobe brain tumor was successfully removed from Patrizia. The 94 divorce set $1.47 million in annual alimony. When Maurizio moved to have it to $860,000, Reggiani called it a bowl of lentils. She decided he had to go. The conspiracy ran through her close friend Giuseppina Pina Auriemma, a former boutique owner turned clairvoyant who recruited hotel porter Ivano Savioni, who brought in ruined restaurant owner Orazio Cicola, who hired the shooter, 35-year-old Sicilian Benedetto Ceraulo. The fee? 600 million lire. Why did she hire a hitman instead of doing it herself? Years later, in a Guardian interview, Reggiani explained, "My eyesight is not so good. I didn't want to miss." The breakthrough came on January 8, 97, with an anonymous tip. Reggiani was arrested at dawn on January 31st at her Corso Venezia apartment. The press baptized her La Vedova Nera, the Black Widow. In November 98, the Milan court gave her 29 years. Ceraulo received life. The Milan Court of Appeal reduced her sentence to 26 years in March 2000, rejecting her brain tumor defense. In prison at San Vittore, her pet ferret Bambi was permitted in her cell. In October 2011, she refused work release, stating, "I've never worked a day in my life, and I'm certainly not going to start now." She was released in October 2016 after approximately 18 years. She became a design consultant at a Milan jewelry firm, debuting a collection during Milan Fashion Week in September 2017 with her macaw bow perched on her shoulder. A court then recognized her right to approximately €1 million per year in contractual annuity, plus $24 million in back payments from the Gucci estate. Enraging daughters Alessandra and Allegra, who in early 2025 tried unsuccessfully to become their mother's legal guardians. In April 2025, shooter Benedetto Ciraulo died in Pisa after a violent incident involving his own son. Ridley Scott's 2021 film House of Gucci starred Lady Gaga as Reggiani, who said she would not collude with a real woman. A single word in a diary, a ferret in a prison cell, and a woman who refused to work even to get out of prison early. But in the next case, a 15-year-old girl disappeared on a short walk between two houses in southern Italy, and the discovery of her body was announced live on national television while her own mother was on the phone. Sabrina Misseri. On the afternoon of August 26, 2010, a 15-year-old girl left her home in Avetrana, a small town in the province of Taranto in southern Italy, to walk 600 meters to her cousin's house. She never arrived. 41 days later, her body was pulled from a cistern in the countryside. The moment of discovery was announced live on the television program Chi l'ha visto, while the girl's own mother was on the phone with the show, listening as the news broke in real time. It remains one of the most disturbing moments in Italian broadcasting history. Sara Scazzi, born in Busto Arsizio on April 4, 1995, had moved to Avetrana in 2002 and was raised almost as a third daughter by her aunt and uncle's household. Her mother, Concetta Serrano Spagnolo, was the younger sister of Cosima Serrano, who was married to farmer Michele Antonio Misseri. Sabrina Misseri, born February 10, 1988, was Cosima and Michele's daughter, Sarah's older cousin. The families lived close together. The motive, as established by the Cassazione, was jealousy over Ivano Russo, a young cook with whom Sabrina had had a brief encounter in August 2010. Sarah had allegedly spread the story, producing what judges later called an emotional short circuit. On August 26th, Sarah left home around 2 p.m. At 2:42 p.m., Sabrina, standing outside her home with two friends, claimed Sarah had never shown up. The final judicial reconstruction established that Sarah had in fact arrived and was strangled with a belt inside the Misseri property by Sabrina and her mother Cosima. The absence of defensive injuries proved the act could not have been the work of a single person. On September 29th, Michel found Sarah's half-burned phone in a nearby field. On October 6th, after a 9-hour interrogation, he confessed and led investigators to the cistern. The discovery was announced live on Chi l'ha visto with Sarah's mother listening on the phone, a moment that stunned the nation. Michel initially claimed he acted alone and attempted to confess to harming Sarah himself. The autopsy ruled that out, and on October 15th, he named his own daughter. Sabrina was arrested October 16, 2010. Cosima was arrested May 26, 2011. The evidence against them was painstakingly assembled. Phone records placed Cosima in the garage at the exact time she denied being there. Local florist Giovanni Bucolieri became a crucial witness, testifying he saw the two women pulling Sarah into a car. On April 20, 2013, the Taranto court sentenced Sabrina and Cosima to life. Michele received 8 years for concealment. The Taranto Court of Appeal confirmed in July 2015. The Cassazione on February 21, 2017, made it definitive, describing Sabrina as an astute and cold driving force. Michele was released in February 2024 and told reporters, "I didn't want to get out because it's not right. I'm the guilty one. 2 innocents are in prison." He has continued publicly insisting he alone was responsible on Le Yen, La Stampa, and Corrieri's Far West. a man who served his sentence and walked free, but refuses to let anyone believe his daughter and wife are guilty. On November 29, 2024, the European Court of Human Rights declared Sabrina and Cosima's appeal inadmissible, ending their last legal avenue. Sabrina serves her sentence in Taranto prison, reportedly sharing a cell with her mother Cosima. Disney Plus's 4-episode miniseries, renamed Qui Non È Hollywood after a Taranto tribunal suspension, premiered October 30th, 2024. A 600-meter walk, a cousin's jealousy, and a father who went to prison for concealment but has spent every day since insisting he was the real killer. But in the next case, an entire family was massacred over a neighbor dispute, and the sole surviving witness identified the killers from a hospital bed. Rosa Bazzi. On the evening of December 11th, 2006, between 8 p.m. and 8:25 p.m., 4 people were killed inside an apartment building at Via Armando Diaz 25 in Erba, a small town in the province of Como in northern Italy. A young mother, her 2-year-old son, her mother, and the elderly woman who lived upstairs. A 5th victim, the elderly woman's husband, survived only because of a congenital malformation of his carotid artery that prevented him from bleeding out after his throat was cut. From his hospital bed, he identified the attackers. They were his next-door neighbors. They lived one wall away. Rosa Angela Bazzi, born in Erba on September 12, 1963, was married to refuse collector Olindo Romano, born February 10, 1962. Investigators described them as 2 very closed and isolated persons, morbidly attached to each other. Family members alleged Rosa had suffered serious harm at age 10. Their next-door neighbors were Rafaela Castagna, 30, and her Tunisian husband, Azouz Marzouk, with their 2-year-old son, Youssef. The 2 households had long-running disputes over noise and insults, including a formal complaint by Rafaela that was scheduled to be heard just 2 days after the massacre. 2 days. Whatever was going to happen in that hearing never had a chance to happen. The victims were Rafaela Castagna, her son Youssef Marzouk, Rafaela's mother Paola Galli, 57, and upstairs neighbor Valeria Cherubini, 55. Rafaela was struck with an iron bar, stabbed 12 times, and had her throat cut. Paola Galli received 6 stab wounds and 6 blows from the bar. 2-year-old Youssef died on the sofa from a wound that severed the carotid. Valeria Cherubini was stabbed 34 times and struck 8 more, and died from carbon monoxide after the apartment was set on fire. Her husband Mario Frigerio, 65, survived thanks to the congenital malformation of his carotid and became the sole eyewitness. How does a neighbor dispute over noise escalate to 4 people being slaughtered in their own home, including a 2-year-old on a sofa? Initial suspicion fell on Azouz Marzouk, Rafaela's husband, who had a criminal record and was in Tunisia at the time. The Italian press initially ran with the theory that an outsider had committed the crime. Attention shifted to the Romanos after investigators noticed their conspicuous behavior and discovered a McDonald's receipt whose timestamp was 2 hours off from their claimed alibi, placing them near the scene during the attack window. On December 26th, a blood trace on the driver's door threshold of their Seat Arosa matched Valeria Cherubini's DNA. On January 8th through 9th, 2007, they were arrested. On January 10th, both confessed in detail, describing the sequence of the attack with a level of specificity that only the people inside that apartment could have known. Mario Frigerio identified Olindo in court from his hospital bed, looking directly at the man who had cut his throat and survived only because of a birth defect nobody knew about until that night. In October 2007, They retracted, alleging brainwashing by investigators, a claim the court rejected. On November 26, 2008, the Como court sentenced both to life with 3 years of daytime isolation. The Milan Court of Appeal confirmed in April 2010. The Cassazione made the sentences definitive on May 3, 2011. But the case refused to stay closed. In April 2023, Milan's Deputy Prosecutor General Kuno Tarfusser filed a sensational revision request, a senior prosecutor challenging his own institution's work. His superior Procurator General Francesca Nani refused to forward it and opened disciplinary proceedings against him. The Brescia Court of Appeal admitted the request, and hearings opened March 1, 2024. On July 10th, Brescia rejected the revision. On March 25, 2025, the Cassazione definitively rejected the final appeal, calling the new evidence mere abstract conjectures. The Cassazione also confirmed the CSM's censure of Tarfusser himself. Rosa, 62, is at Bollate. Olindo, 63, is at Opera. No further domestic appeals are available. Their defense has signaled a possible ECHR appeal. But as of April 2026, no filing has been confirmed. A McDonald's receipt, a blood trace on a car door, and a 2-year-old killed on a sofa over a noise complaint. But in the next case, a woman killed her lover's wife, buried her under freshly poured concrete at her own front door, and the lover kept visiting, walking over the body every time he came. Maria Teresa Crivellari. On February 18, 2010, a 44-year-old mother of 3 named Marina Patriti disappeared from her home in Bruino, a small town southwest of Turin. She was a wife and mother with no enemies, no debts, and no reason to leave. Her husband Giacomo Bellorio reported her missing. Police searched. Months passed, and for the next 9 to 10 months, Bellorio continued visiting the home of his lover, a woman named Maria Teresa Crivellari, in nearby Sant'Ambrogio di Torino. Every time he walked through her front entrance, he stepped on the freshly poured concrete pavement beneath which his wife's body had been buried since the night she vanished. He either did not know or he did not care. The courts concluded he did not know. The press was not so sure. Maria Teresa Crivellari, born around 1957, was known in Italian crime reporting as La Mantide di Bruino, the Mantis of Bruino. She lived in Sant'Ambrogio di Torino, in the Val di Susa, and had 3 children, including son Alessandro Marella. She had been hired as a household collaborator by Bellorio, Marina's husband, and had become his lover. In court, she described the arrangement as sustained by a promise from Bellorio that they would build a future together, that he would leave Marina, that they would become a new family. That promise, she said, was the reason she did what she did. The court did not accept that as a defense. It accepted it as a motive. A woman who believed she was owed a life that belonged to someone else decided to take it by force. The judicial reconstruction established that Marina was sedated, taken from her home, and brought to the garage of Crivellari's property. She was then poisoned with rat poison, suffocated with a plastic bag, and buried under a newly poured concrete pavement at the villa's entrance. 3 methods to make sure she would not survive. Crivellari did not act alone. Her son Alessandro and 2 accomplices, Andrea Chiappetta and Calogero Pasqualino, helped carry out the plan and the burial. For the better part of a year, the body lay beneath concrete while life continued above it. Bellorio visited regularly. Friends came and went. Nobody smelled anything. Nobody noticed the fresh concrete. Nobody asked. Who buries a woman under their own front door and then invites the woman's husband to walk over it for 10 months? Carabinieri of the Turin Provincial Command recovered the body in November 2010, 9 months after Marina vanished. Crivellari confessed and was arrested along with her son and accomplices. Under abbreviated trial, Judge Massimo Scarabello sentenced Crivellari to life. Prosecutor Eugenia Ghi had requested the maximum penalty. Crivellari was also convicted of false accusation for trying to implicate Bellorio in the conspiracy. Accomplices received 15 to 16 years. Provisional damages of 1.2 million euros were awarded to the victim's family. In court, she read a letter claiming she had been deceived by Bellorio about their future. She said she killed for love. The prosecutor said she killed for possession. The distinction, the court ruled, did not change the outcome for Marina Petriti. The Court d'Assises confirmed life in June 2013. The Cassazione on December 10, 2014, made it definitive. On March 22, 2017, Crivellari was temporarily released from Turin's Valette prison for serious health reasons, a suspected septicemia that threatened her life. She was transferred to Molinette Hospital, where she reportedly underwent 3 operations and fell into a coma. The possibility that she might die in hospital rather than in prison generated coverage about justice denied. She survived. After recovery, she was ordered back into custody. In a 2018 prison interview with Torino Cronica, she said, "I did it for love. Now I am sorry." No major updates on her status have emerged through 2026. Marina Petriti's 3 children have grown up without their mother. The nickname La Mantide di Bruino cemented the case in Italy's true crime canon. Marina Petriti's 3 children grew up without their mother because a woman who called herself the victim of a broken promise decided the only solution was sedation, poison, suffocation, and 10 months of fresh concrete. Rat poison, a plastic bag, and a body under concrete that a lover walked over for 10 months. But in the next case, a mother left her 18-month-old daughter alone in an apartment with a bottle of milk and vanished for 6 days. When she came back, the child had tried to eat her own nappy. Alessia Pifferi. On July 14, 2022, at approximately 7 p.m., a 37-year-old woman left her apartment in Via Parea in the Ponte Lambro neighborhood of Milan and drove to her boyfriend's home in Leffe, in the province of Bergamo. She left her 18-month-old daughter Diana alone in a camping cot with a small baby bottle of milk, a bottle of iced tea, and a small bottle of water. She told her boyfriend the child was at the seaside with a babysitter. She stayed away for 6 days. On July 20th, she returned and found Diana lifeless. First responders estimated the child had been dead for 24 to 48 hours. The autopsy determined death by starvation and dehydration. Diana had attempted to eat pieces of her own nappy. Alessia Pifferi, born in Milan in 1985, grew up in Ponte Lambro and described a childhood of paternal violence and harm she suffered at age 10 or 11. She left school without finishing middle school and married a Palermitan man at around 20. After a miscarriage, she returned to Milan. In August 2020, she met Angelo Mario D'Ambrosio, a 58-year-old electrician on a dating site, and moved in with him while pregnant by another man. Diana was born January 29, 2021, in the bathroom of D'Ambrosio's house in Leffe. Premature, hospitalized for over a month. After discharge, Diana was never registered with social services, received no vaccinations, and had no regular medical checkups. She existed in no system. Pifferi staged a fake baptism for Diana to collect gifts, spending the money on a limousine dinner with D'Ambrosio at Lake Endine. The child's baptism was a fundraiser for her mother's social life. She initially claimed Diana had been left with a babysitter named Giovanna, then Jasmine, but could produce no contact for either. Investigators found over 30 evening dresses and an empty fridge in the apartment. Traces of sedatives were found in Diana's hair, indicating the child had been given substances before the final abandonment. Chat logs showed a paying client expressing intent to kiss also Diana, to which Alessia consented. What kind of mother leaves an 18-month-old alone for 6 days with a bottle of milk and a bottle of iced tea? She had briefly passed through Milan on July 17th with D'Ambrosio without stopping at the apartment. They drove through the city, past the neighborhood where Diana was alone in a camping cot, and kept going. She returned alone briefly on the morning of July 18th, entering her building but apparently not entering the apartment or checking on Diana. She was in Milan on 2 separate occasions during the 6 days. She could have opened the door either time. She chose not to. Diana was likely still alive on at least one of those visits. The trial became a battleground over her mental capacity that produced its own scandal. The defense cited a prison psychologist's report claiming an IQ of 40, a score indicating severe intellectual disability. Court-appointed psychiatrist Elvasio Pierfo rejected the finding and ruled her fully capable, concluding the prison report did not conform to clinical protocols. In January 2024, 2 San Vittore psychologists were placed under investigation for falsifying the reports. Intercepted communications indicated one cited an antisocial motive to undermine justice. Her own defense lawyer was also investigated. The probes expanded to 7 people accused of a coordinated plan to manipulate the psychiatric evidence. On May 13, 2024, the Milan court sentenced her to life. On appeal, a new collegial evaluation was ordered in February 2025, and in August 2025, the experts confirmed full capacity. On November 5, 2025, the Milan Court of Appeal reduced the sentence to 24 years. Granting mitigating circumstances and removing the trivial motive aggravating factor. The prosecution had sought confirmation of life imprisonment. The appeal motivations were deposited January 7, 2026. Her sister Viviana, 24 years is the value of an 18-month-old baby left alone in a house to die. In June 2024, her ex-husband Francesco Miranda was found dead in Palermo of natural causes. Piferi is at Vigevano prison, where in February 2025, she reported being attacked by cellmates, requiring 4 stitches, 30 evening dresses, an empty fridge, and a child who tried to eat her own nappy. But in the next case, a mother picked her daughter up from preschool, offered her a chocolate pudding, and 17 minutes later, the child was buried in a field. Martina Patti. On Monday, June 13, 2022, a 23-year-old mother picked up her nearly 5-year-old daughter from preschool in Mascalucia, a town on the southern slopes of Mount Etna in Sicily. CCTV cameras captured their last moment together, an embrace at the school gate. That footage, replayed endlessly on Italian television, shows a mother bending down to hug a child in a yellow dress. Within the hour, the child would be dead. Prosecutors established that the mother had already dug a pit that morning, using a spade and pick from the trunk of her car. She had prepared the grave before picking her daughter up from school. After offering the child a chocolate pudding, she covered her with a black bin bag and stabbed her in the back. The autopsy counted more than 11 stab wounds with defensive injuries on the child's palms, meaning the little girl raised her hands and tried to stop the blade. Only 1 wound was lethal, and the child endured what forensic experts described as a long agony. The court later established the entire killing and burial took 17 minutes. Martina Patti, born in 1998 or 99, had daughter Elena Del Pozzo in mid-2017 with ex-partner Alessandro Del Pozzo. 24, from whom she was separated. Elena was described by family and teachers as a bright, affectionate child who loved going to school, and had recently begun asking questions about why her parents no longer lived together. In court, Patty testified she was going through a period in which everything went wrong, citing a failed cohabitation, a failed university exam, and a recent breakup with a new boyfriend. Court-appointed psychiatrist Antonino Petraglia defined her personality as borderline with marked depressive notes, unrealistic convictions, and particularly rigid moral criteria. The motive identified by prosecutors was jealousy toward her ex-partner's new companion, a fear that Elena was beginning to bond with the other woman and that Patty was losing control of the one person she believed still belonged to her. After the killing, Patty told Carabinieri that 3 hooded armed men had blocked her car and kidnapped Elena, describing their weapons, how they pulled Elena from the car, alleged threats to her ex-partner. Investigators quickly noted no witnesses, no surveillance confirming the story, and no call for help. She had fabricated an entire kidnapping to cover a killing she had planned since dawn. During a search of the house the following morning, she collapsed, confessed, and led Carabinieri to the body. Elena's remains were in 5 black bags, half buried in a field. Surveillance footage from Quarto Grotto showed Patty stopping twice at the same burial field earlier in the day. The examining magistrate called her lucid and calculating. How does a mother embrace her daughter at the school gate, offer her a chocolate pudding, and 17 minutes later leave her buried in a field she dug that morning? On July 12, 2024, the day Elena would have turned 7, the Catania court sentenced Patty to 30 years, 28 for the killing, 18 months for concealment, 6 months for staging the kidnapping. The ruling described Elena as an encumbrance to her mother's pursuit of a new relationship, rejecting the dissociative episode defense. Elena's paternal grandmother stated, "It was not a sudden outburst. It was exaggerated premeditation." The appeal opened April 14, 2025. At a May hearing, Patty spoke for nearly 30 minutes. "When I did that thing, I wasn't myself." On October 22, 2025, appeal experts confirmed she was fully capable, finding only partial amnesia. A February 2026 hearing reaffirmed capacity. Every expert appointed has reached the same conclusion. She understood what she was doing. She dug the pit. She drove to the school. She hugged her daughter. She offered chocolate. And within 17 minutes, Elena was in the ground. As of April 2026, the appeal verdict is still pending. Patty is held at Bacacca Prison in Catania and has requested to enroll in a nursing degree while imprisoned. The CCTV footage of that final embrace at the school gate, a mother bending to hug a daughter who trusted her completely, remains the defining image of the case across Italian media. But the final case on this list happened on Christmas Eve during COVID lockdown, and the victim had called an anti-violence center days before she was killed by her own daughter. Arianna Orazzi. On Christmas Eve, 2020, during Italy's COVID lockdown, a 78-year-old woman was strangled inside the family villa on Via Pertini in Montecassiano, a hilltop town in the province of Macerata in the Marche region. Her daughter, her grandson, and her husband were all inside the house at the time. The 3 of them told police a burglar had broken in, tied them up, and killed the elderly woman during a robbery. There was no burglar, there was no break-in. And days before her death, the victim had reached out to an anti-violence center, telling them she was being vexed at home, including over money. She was trying to get help. She did not receive it in time. She was killed to stop her from talking. Rosina Carcetti, 78, lived in the villa with her husband Enrico Orazzi, around 80, their daughter Arianna Orazzi, around 49 at the time, and Arianna's son Enea Seminetti, then 21. 3 generations under one roof, and the oldest member was the most vulnerable. Prosecutors described Arianna and Enea as being in a symbiotic relationship, a bond so tight that the mother directed and the son executed without question. The prosecution portrayed Arianna as the mastermind, with Enea as the material executor. The prosecution concluded Rosina had rebelled against the climate of oppression and was killed to silence her before she could speak to authorities again. The staged robbery fell apart quickly. Wiretaps in the Carabinieri barracks on Christmas Day caught Arianna reproaching Enea. "Why didn't you stick to what I told you? Tell them to retract." Investigators retrieved an Instagram message in which Arianna had written, "I'm studying the plan." The appeal ruling established she had seized Rosina's phone and threatened, "If anything happens to Enea, I'll kill you." Who writes "I'm studying the plan" on Instagram and then stages a fake robbery on Christmas Eve? The first trial produced a shocking split that outraged prosecutors and the public alike. The Macerata court convicted only Enea of murder with a life sentence, acquitting Arianna and Enrico of the killing and sentencing them to just 2 years each for staging the fake robbery. Despite the wiretaps recorded on Christmas Day, despite the Instagram message about studying a plan, despite the anti-violence center contact just days before Rosina's death, the first instance court found insufficient evidence to convict the mastermind herself. With time served and suspended benefits, Arianna walked free from Forlì prison on December 15, 2022, returning to the Montecassiano villa the same evening. She went home to the house where her mother had been strangled 2 Christmases earlier and lived there as a free woman for a year and a half. On July 10, 2024, the Ancona Court of Appeal overturned the acquittals. Arianna received life for premeditated murder, aggravated by diminished defense, kinship, mistreatment, robbery, and simulation. Enea's sentence was revised to 27 years. Enrico received 4 years and 6 months. At the final hearing, Enrico tried to claim he had killed Rosina himself because she was used as an ATM. The court did not believe him and forwarded the transcript for a possible self-accusation investigation. The 434-page ruling, deposited in October 2024, centered on the "I'm studying the plan" message and the mother-son joint motive to silence Rosina permanently. On June 18, 2025, the Cassazione confirmed all sentences, as confirmed by Il Resto del Carlino and Corriere Adriatico. When Carabinieri came to execute the arrest order at her home, Arianna was not there. She was arrested the following day at Sacco di Piave, in the province of Venice, approximately 260 kilometers away. Her lawyer, Olindo Dionisi, claimed she had gone to Bollate to turn herself in, but had not been registered. Il Messaggero framed the episode as an attempted flight from the Marsh to the Veneto. She was transferred to Venice prison. As of April 2026, Arianna Orazzi is serving a definitive life sentence for the premeditated murder of her own mother. The case stands out in Italian criminal history for an extraordinary judicial trajectory. Acquitted of the killing at first instance, freed from prison, allowed to return to the house where the crime occurred, and then sentenced to life on appeal after the wiretaps and the Instagram message were given the weight the first court had denied them. It is one of the starkest acquittal-to-life reversals in modern Italian jurisprudence. A mother who called for help days before she was killed, a daughter who wrote, "I'm studying the plan," and a Christmas Eve that ended with a staged robbery, and a 78-year-old woman strangled inside her own home by the people who were supposed to protect her. This was all from our side today. Thanks for watching. Click here to check out another video.